Hey everybody, welcome back to the Peebs channel. As most of you probably know, I've been around on the internet making videos for a long time on my old channel, PeanutButterGamer. Again, I know most of you probably know about it, but we've got so many new subscribers at this point that I feel like I have to mention that every now and then. For the new people, almost 10 years ago today, I think it was on February 14th, 2015. So yeah, just under 10 years. I released a video on my top 10 favorite games ever. Well, it's been a long time since I have seen that video. I do not remember all the games that were on there. I also don't remember that video being very good, or at least I remember not liking it very much. But more importantly than that, I feel like it doesn't accurately represent my top 10 favorite games anymore. So I'm gonna go through one by one and compare my old favorite games to my new favorite games. All right, let's see what my original top 10 favorite game was. I don't even remember. I don't even have a guess to what I would have put it at number 10. Wait, Dead Space? Really? Dead Space at number 10? Okay. Alright. Yeah, I guess I did still really like Dead Space at that point. I mean, it's a decent enough game, and the remake was not half bad. I guess I had a lot of fond memories of playing Dead Space when it first came out in my little apartment. It was the first place I lived by myself, and it was one of the first games I played in that apartment, and it was really freaking me out. I remember being constantly paranoid, having to pause the game. I could like look around and make sure no one else was in the room with me in the dark, and continue playing. Oh! It's just a game. It's just a game. It's just a game. Yeah, it was a very scary game to me at the time, but I feel like these days, the amount of horror games that I've played is a lot more than it was then. And I feel like horror games have evolved quite a bit since those days too, so Dead Space almost seems like kind of cheap with the scares. But there's a vent right behind me. I wonder where the bad guys are gonna come from. Like, I'm not trying to hate on Dead Space. It's still a good game, and like I said, the remake was a lot of fun. I didn't get all the way through it, but I played at least a few hours into it. But I definitely wouldn't have it anywhere close to my top 10 favorite games at this point. Now I have at number 10, Persona 5. Toasty's gonna make fun of me on this one because I have it in my top 10. I know it's one of his favorite games, but I haven't even beaten the game. But it's not my fault! My wife and I were playing through this game, and it did take us a long time, admittedly, because I'm slow as hell at like everything that I do. But we got right to the very final boss, waited till my wife's birthday, we were gonna play it on her birthday, booted up the game on my PS4, we were still playing the PS4 version and not Golden. And the save data just corrupted. It just corrupted. I've never had that happen before in my entire life. I spent like an hour trying to fix it and it didn't work. So I had to go back and play through it. I'm currently replaying through it on the Switch for the Golden version, and yeah. I'm losing a lot of time to that card game. But one of these days, I will make it all the way back and we will finish it. I don't have a lot of RPGs on this list. In fact, this might be the only one, spoiler alert. Well, no, technically not. But in terms of long-form JRPGs, a little redundant there, I don't generally play too many of them just because it takes too much time. So I'm a bit picky with which ones I pick, but Persona 5 is definitely up there, and I mean up there. It's my favorite Japanese RPG. I love the story, I love the characters. It's very funny. The gameplay is alright, although I do have a little bit of a problem with the combat. Mainly, I don't like it when you're playing an RPG with multiple characters in your party and the main character, your player, dies and you lose. Like, why do I have these other guys here? Why do I have all these revive items? If I die, it's just over. It's super annoying. It makes it hard to, like, strategize the way I want. But other than that, I really don't have any complaints about it. But the thing I like the most about it isn't the dungeons, it isn't the story, it's just the sort of day-to-day life in between all the stuff that's happening. I find myself doing this a lot in games, even in like Zelda games and things. I like the dungeons and all that stuff, but I like the time in between where I can just kind of wander around and do whatever I want. And there's a lot of that in this game. In fact, you have to really utilize the regular days in your life in order to level yourself up, increase your confidence levels, and doing all that stuff, even just things like, you know, playing a video game in the game, or watching a movie, or even going out and eating food at a restaurant. All of these things make your character better. I like that not only from a gameplay perspective, but also from a sort of like metaphorical perspective. Is that the word I'm looking for? Basically forcing yourself to do things in your everyday life as opposed to just sitting around and melting in front of an iPhone screen or something. Like, that actually does make you a better person over time, slowly. Playing a new video game, like giving yourself new experiences, going out shopping or going out to the movies or something. These sorts of things are what make life worth living in the first place, and they do kind of make you a more interesting person in general. You don't really get like RPG stats in real life, but hey, in a way, if you think about it. It kind of makes sense. I also just like that it's a sort of slow-paced game. I mean, again, you get like 3 or 4 weeks or whatever to do each chapter of the game and to find the bad guy and beat their dungeon. So that leaves you a lot of time to just do whatever you want. And I love that. And the older I get, the more I like slow-paced games, as you will see as we get further into this list. But yeah, Persona 5, really love that game. Let's move on to number 9. What was my 9th favorite game back in 2015? Tactics Ogre: The Night of Lotus. Yeah, another interesting one. This would not be anywhere close to my top 10 anymore. Not because it's a bad game by any means. I love this game still. I have it over here somewhere. Yeah, right here. Literally within arm's reach of myself at all times when I'm making these videos. Tactics Ogre: The Night of Lotus. This was a very fun game for me when I first played it. When did this come out? 2001, so I must have been anywhere from 11 to 13 or something when I first played this. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Tactics Ogre series, this is a tactical RPG. It's actually the only Tactics Ogre game I played. Well, I guess I played a little bit of the PSP one. This came out around the time that Final Fantasy Tactics came out, and I was really, really into the Game Boy Advance, so I was playing just about any kind of Game Boy Advance game I could get my hands on at the time. For some reason, this one really stood out to me. I guess you can watch my old video if you want to know more why. But even though I have a lot of fond memories for it, it's not even top 20. Let's be real. Now my number 9 game, man, this is quite a big jump in quality. From Tactics Ogre: The Night of Lotus to Silent Hill 2. One of the best games of all time, probably. Certainly one of the most praised games of all time. A lot of people would put this as their favorite game, I think. Now, I wouldn't have had this as my number 9 favorite game back in the day because I didn't really like this kind of dark game back in the day. I was much more into colorful, happy games, you know, Mario, Animal Crossing, Zelda, things like that. And while obviously I still do like those kinds of games, I do have a sort of interest in some darker themes, at least to a certain extent. I can only handle so much because I like to be a positive person, but every now and then I like to dive into something like Silent Hill 2. Even though I don't talk about them that much, I do love horror games. I love the sort of cheap thrills. It kind of gets my blood pumping. I kind of like horror games for the same reason I like spicy food, because it just makes me feel alive. But Silent Hill 2 is obviously a lot more than just your typical cheap horror game. Instead of jump scares and stuff like that, Silent Hill has this sort of constant, slowly building, what would the word I would use be? Sense of dread. The further you play into this game, the more that dread builds up. Obviously, it's scary even on the surface level. I mean, the enemies and things are scary. I think even going back and playing this sort of dated horror game, there's something scary about it. Just the way it looks now and the way it plays now, it's kind of off from your typical horror game that you play these days. Something about technology and being dated is always scary. There's like all these VHS horror games and things now. But it's more so the story that's scary. And I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't played it, but I highly recommend it. I talked about this in much more detail in my PS2 games video I did on the PeanutButterGamer channel. If you're curious, you can check that out. All right, what did I get at number 8? Super Mario RPG. Okay, now we're talking. This is closer to being in my top 10 favorite games than Dead Space or Tactics Ogre, but I mean, it's still not. Playing the remake recently, as much as I liked that remake, and obviously I still like the original Super Mario RPG, it made me realize that it's kind of simple. I mean, it's not even the best Mario RPG that there is. I mean, obviously the Thousand Year Door would be better. Probably at least like the first Mario and Luigi RPG would, I would think that would be a better game than Super Mario RPG. Obviously, it's all subjective, but I still do have a nice soft spot for Super Mario RPG, and there's something about the familiarity of it that I do love coming back to it a lot. It's also very simple, so it's easy to get into. And it's not even that long, so you can pick up, play it, and beat it in a few days if you want. But yeah, again, not in my top 10 anymore. Man, the difference between some of these games is jarring. We're going from Super Mario RPG 10 years ago to today, Subnautica. I'm not sure I can think of 2 more different games than that. I don't play a whole lot of these sort of adventure, crafting, survival games, but I do play some of them, specifically if they're aesthetically interesting to me. And Subnautica is one of the most aesthetically interesting games that I can even think of. You crash land into this ocean alien planet. It's just crazy beautiful to look at and explore, and the further you get, it starts to get really spooky also. So just exploring the world in and of itself is really entertaining, but obviously there's some horror aspects to it as well. It's a nice mix of kind of chill exploring this beautiful world and crafting your bases and upgrading your parts to your whatever, with just a little bit of piss your pants horror sprinkled in. What's that noise? No! 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 It's near me! It's gonna get me! Oh God! Oh my God! I can't do this! Alright, that's it! That's it! I've always been afraid of sharks and like sea monsters and things. Something about being in the water just makes you feel just completely helpless. I'm not a great swimmer to begin with, but even if I was Michael frickin' Phelps, I can't outswim a frickin' Leviathan. Oh God. Get off of me!
Don't exit. Don't exit. No. See, how do I get away? Okay, I quit. I can't do it right. Bye-bye.
I always love in games when there's this sort of looming, constant threat behind the scenes. It kind of makes everything you're doing feel more real and more important and more exciting when you're collecting all these crafting materials and things. Realistically, without the threat, Subnautica would be kind of boring. I mean, it'd be a beautiful game to look at, but relatively boring, all things considered. But since you know there could be some crazy monster that's like 8,000 times your size ready to eat you whole any turn you take, it just makes the whole game more exciting. I also almost exclusively play this on hardcore mode because it makes all the stuff I was talking about even more exciting. All the stuff you built up over all this time could just be gone in a split second if you fuck up. And the game's so fun to restart that I don't even really care if I die because I love restarting this game. I probably restarted it like 20 times. I didn't really enjoy Subnautica Below Zero. I felt like some of the stuff I loved about the original Subnautica just wasn't in that game. I liked the sort of solitude of the original. I felt like they underplayed the horror aspects in Below Zero. I remember they completely lost me when something really scary was happening and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to piss myself. And my character's like, I'm not afraid of that. Remind me why my character has a voice again. I really feel like it just ruins the immersion. I don't know. There was a lot of things about that game that bothered me. I hope that Subnautica 2 will be better. It is apparently being made right now. I don't have my hopes up that much, but I'll always love the original for sure. Number 7. What did I have at number 7? Okay, Resident Evil 4. Interesting. Oh yeah, even more interesting because I put Resident Evil 4 at number 7 in this video also. That's funny. I doubt that will happen again, but it could potentially. We'll see. Yeah, I still love Resident Evil 7, apparently just as much as I used to. This is the part of my list where it started to get insanely hard. I could not decide how to order these. I got to number 7 and I ended up having to go to number 1 and work my way back in order to figure it out because it's so hard to narrow it down. I was stun locked. Resident Evil 4 has a lot of things that I like in games. It's got horror, it's got some action. I do like a little bit of action in small doses. It's got campy humor. That's the thing I missed the most from the new remake. A lot of the campy lines from the original game are no longer in the game.
No thanks, bro.
They replaced it with actual good voice acting and dialogue, which, you know, on one hand is nice, but on the other hand, I miss it.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
But let's be real, a big reason why I like Resident Evil 4 so much still to this day is the nostalgia. And I don't care what anybody says, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of nostalgia every now and then. I've played through and beaten Resident Evil 4 so many times, it might actually be the game that I've played through completely the most at this point. It's basically comfort food for me now. It's also one of those games that I've talked about so many times, I feel like I don't have anything else in particular to say about it that I haven't already said a million times. So let's go ahead and move on to number 6. What did I have at number 6? We had Animal Crossing New Leaf. Did I say New Leaf specifically? I think I did now that I'm thinking about it. Dude, I didn't even mention City Folk in this. I guess I didn't particularly like City Folk at the time, or at least it was the version of Animal Crossing that I had played the least at that point. I've since grown to like City Folk a lot. It's still to this day kind of hard for me to pick which version of Animal Crossing I like the most. There's aspects of the original that I really, really like. Let's be real, a lot of that's nostalgia. I'm playing through the original game right now. Me and my wife have it set up in the baby's room. Spent a lot of time in there anyway, so I just put up the CRT TV, got a DVD VHS player hooked up in there, hooked up the GameCube. Been playing Animal Crossing almost every day, for at least for, you know, 10-15 minutes in the morning. But realistically, I don't think that the GameCube version is the best. If I can only play one for forever, there's features and things in other Animal Crossing games that aren't in the original that I really miss. Even just the villager pictures. I've always loved collecting the villager pictures. I always love having things to collect in games. Some of you will be getting a big burst of nostalgia here, but I used to do these Let's Play series on my gameplay channel called the Collection Series. Collecting all the bobbleheads in Fallout 3, collecting all the masks in Majora's Mask, stuff like that. I still love that kind of collection aspect in games, and collecting the villager pictures in Animal Crossing was a big one for me. Obviously, I never even tried to get all of them. That would be insane. But I liked getting all the pictures of the villagers that I did have in my town, and I would dedicate like an entire room to setting up the pictures. Yeah, that's not in the GameCube version, so it makes befriending the villagers a little less satisfying because I know no matter how much I do chores for Lobo, he's never gonna give me anything. He's never gonna show me that he loves me. He's never gonna give me his autographed picture. So what's the point? F you, Lobo. You're a dick anyway. Just kidding, I love you, Lobo. But yeah, I don't think New Leaf is a bad pick. I think I might still agree with that one. Either that or City Folk. Notably, I don't particularly enjoy the newest version for the Switch as much. I don't even think this is that controversial of an opinion. There's aspects of that game that are are so good. The graphics are insane. I love the ambiance, like the wind blowing through the trees and everything. It's so good. And being able to build stuff outside is insanely cool. I mean, it's like 90% of what you even do in the game. But I mean, realistically, that was never what Animal Crossing was about. I liked getting items to decorate my room and things, but that wasn't the reason I played it. I feel like the spirit, such a vague thing to say, but the spirit of Animal Crossing is just like sort of missing in the new game. Behind all the fancy bells and whistles. I can see why some people would prefer it over the older ones, but for me, the older ones have that special spark, that special sauce, the secret sauce. But oh yeah, I almost forgot I'm not talking about Animal Crossing right now. because moving on to my number 6, which is another one that is insanely different. Project Zomboid! From Animal Crossing to Deadly Zombie Simulation. What if Nintendo made Animal Crossing zombies? Yeah, no, serious. No, that's not funny. I want that. Project Zomboid is a pretty popular game, but if you are unfamiliar, it is a very realistic zombie simulator. I think that might be the best way to describe it. It's The Sims 1 meets zombies. It actually does kind of look like Sims 1 graphics, which I really like. I've never listened to anything that the devs said in particular about the game, other than reading some of the like updates that they put on the Steam page or whatever. But I get the sense that they wanted to make a zombie survival game where anything you could do in real life, you could also do in the game. Or at least they do their best to make it so that that's the case. And in fact, the newest version of the game just came out, Build 42, and it added even more things that you can do in the game. But yeah, it's not just picking up a gun and blasting zombies like some Left 4 Dead 2 kind of game or whatever. In fact, I almost never use guns in the game because shooting your gun is so loud that the second you do it, you just get swarmed by every zombie within a 3-mile radius. In a world where obviously there's basically no hope of surviving long term. I mean, even when you start the game, it says this is how you died. So you're always meant to die eventually. I usually play on insanely difficult settings. I have really high zombie spawns, really low loot rate. It just makes surviving that much more satisfying. You know, you get your little base and you make it somewhat safe and have it kind of nice. You build up some furniture, you put a little TV and a bed, and you got some books and all these sort of like amenities and things. I want my character to be happy, you know, until they eventually die a terrible death.
Oh my god! Oh. I can't move. Oh my god, we should have jumped out the window. Rico, no!
A lot of people play multiplayer. I usually play it by myself though. I kind of like the isolation. It adds to this sort of sense of dread and like looming threat that the game has. Besides, who needs friends when I could find mannequins and dress them up and put them in my house and pretend that they're my friends? This is another slow-paced game. There's definitely action in it, but it is not an action game. Most of the time, you're just whacking some zombies in the head for a while, picking up some chips, reading skill books, watching TV, just doing boring stuff, just trying to live. But every now and then in between that, you get these insanely memorable moments and crazy things that happen. I'll always remember my favorite run that I had in the game. My wife and I had recently played through all of the Telltale Walking Dead games, and so I made an adult version of Clementine. She even had the hat and everything. I found this spot that I had never seen in the game before. It was like this little meth lab, and then there's a crack house right next to it. Fairly safe and near Muldra, one of the bigger towns in the game. We lived for a really long time. I made it all nice. I had these safety walls and everything, but eventually Clem got scratched or bit, I can't remember. It was inevitable that she was gonna die, so I took her back to the meth lab, which was getting really cozy at that point. And using a mod, which is not in the game to be clear, I put an end to it. It had to be done. I'm not gonna see Clem turn into a zombie, okay? But yeah, crazy that Project Zomboid is at number 6. I figured when I started this, it would end up being higher than that. But yeah, moving on to number 5. What did old PBG have? Number 5, back in the day, was Mass Effect. It happened again! I put Mass Effect at number 5 again! Well, that makes my job easier now. So my taste in games has changed, but there are still some games that I love that are still in my top 10. Mass Effect being one of them. I think this old video I put Mass Effect 2. I'm just throwing Mass Effect, like, the whole series on it. If I had to pick one, I guess I'd say 2, but realistically speaking, I feel like you need the whole series for it to really, you know, I mean, you can't just play Mass Effect 2. You have to play 1, 2, and 3. You need the whole thing. One of my all-time favorite games to replay, especially if we're taking length into consideration, generation. Most of the time, the games that I replay a lot are short. Like Resident Evil 4 isn't really that long. Luigi's Mansion is a game I replay a lot. We talked about a bunch of games that I replay in a video actually on this channel not that long ago. Mass Effect is one that I replay a lot, even though it's like 150 hours or whatever the hell playing all 3 of the games. I don't really like sci-fi all that much, but when I do like it, I really like it. I like Star Trek The Next Generation. I've never even watched any other Star Trek series, just that one. I'll watch that one multiple times. And I really like Mass Effect. I guess I like Star Wars too, at least the old ones. But most of the time, I don't care that much about sci-fi, so the fact that I love Mass Effect so much, I think it speaks to how great it actually is. This is another game where I love it mostly for the story, let's be real. There's nothing wrong with the gameplay. I can see how it would get a little old to people after a while, especially if you're playing through all of them. Like playing from the start to beginning on the new remastered version or something like that. I can see how the third-person combat would get a little bit tedious. You're kind of just running through, blasting people, but I kind of like it. I find it exciting and at least enjoyable. It's almost relaxing. Shooting all those people in the face and murdering them, it's relaxing. But mostly I love playing Mass Effect for the characters. Always been a huge Tali-Zora fan. In fact, I actually have a Tali-Zora figure that I bought for my wife after we played through them. We have this little area in our place where we set aside for games that we've played together. We'll buy like little figures and things to go up on them, and so we're always adding new little figures of games that we've played together onto there. The Tali-Zora one, that's by far the most expensive one we have on there. I got it for her for a gift, but it, you know, let's be real, it was for me too. But almost all the characters are enjoyable. There's only a couple that I'm not that interested in. Also, Garrus, been a big Morden fan too. Liara, I even like Jack. I didn't like Jack that much when I first played the game, but now that I'm older, I can appreciate Jack a little more. I kind of want to be evil in my next playthrough and date Jack. That's what I'm thinking. That's something I've never done. I'm always finding excuses to want to replay the series again. In fact, it was like, I don't know, 6 months or so after we beat the remastered versions together, where we both kept saying like, we can maybe play Mass Effect again. We can maybe just start playing through an 130-hour series of Mass Effect again. You know, why not? I always want to replay this game. And the main antagonists of the series are always so cool to me. The Reapers. Playing through the first 2 games and just slowly learning about how much you are fucked. How badly the Reapers are going to fucking kill everybody. You're so fucked. Oh my god. It's always in the back of your head as you're playing through those games, and it slowly starts to like get more and more tense. And then the third game starts and shit hit the fan right at the start. I know a lot of people don't like the third game, and there's some valid criticisms of the third one, but I don't know. I actually really like the third game. I get really excited to get to the third game because that's right when stuff starts going down. No matter how you feel about the ending itself, which again, I get it. Some of the biggest and most exciting parts of the series are in the third game. So always look forward to getting to it. But yeah, anyway, Mass Effect number 5. It was number 5 back then too, so it must be in the right place. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll have Mass Effect at number 5. Number 4! Ooh, okay. Mario 64. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right for 10 years ago. Some things have happened since then. I'm not gonna say what. That's fine. You know, a few different experiences I've had in my life. Play through something. I just kind of don't like Mario 64 as much as I used to. Please, no, Mario, please, please, no! Why? Why? Something about it, you know, the magic is gone. Please, no, no, please, no! Oh! Oh, no! Oh! So I have moved from Mario 64 to The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which is, I know, a game that I had coming up at least at some point on this old list, but it's down to number 4 now, I guess. So it's taken at least a small dip, which is sad, you know? It actually does make me sad. It's crazy to me even right now that I'm saying Oblivion is my 4th favorite game and not my 1st. I have like 4 different games, 5, 6, 7 different games that I feel like I could easily put at number 1, but you know, I had to make room for something. Something had to fall. So unfortunately, it was Oblivion. I've done a whole video on Oblivion on my PBG channel. I remember having so much fun with that video. Whenever I do a video like that, it's all for me. I'm just doing it because I feel like it. If anyone else wants to watch, then go, come on board. But I'm making an Oblivion video because I felt like playing it. Another game I've talked about so much, I really don't even have that much to say about it anymore. I play a lot of Skyrim also, and I even enjoy the older Elder Scrolls games too. But I mean, Oblivion is so nostalgic to me. I love the setting of Oblivion compared to Skyrim, which is a lot of snowy mountains and stuff. I love that classic forest, caves, castles, that kind of fantasy setting is just peak for me. And I feel like Oblivion has more interesting quests too than Skyrim. I'm not hating on Skyrim or anything about it. I love Skyrim. But when I think of quests in the Elder Scrolls, probably my top 10 favorites are from Oblivion, or at least close to it. I'll always have fond memories of doing the Elder Scrolls collection series on the gameplay channel back in the day, PvG Gameplay. Since we're talking about nostalgia a lot in this video, that's one of the series that I remember having the most fun with. I remember being like 13 or however old I was. I got my first computer. It was this crappy laptop I was playing Oblivion on. I didn't even really know what the Daedric quests were. I knew that the statues represented quests of like these demon gods or whatever. And you know, you can't do all of them unless you're a certain level. So I would get to certain statues and think, man, I really want to do this. So I would take screenshots of them. And I remember collecting screenshots of the Daedric statues and thinking like that was, I knew I wanted to archive all of these quests somehow. And so eventually later on in life, I had my career doing YouTube videos and doing Let's Plays at certain points. And so I was able to kind of make that little dream come true through that series and kind of archive all those quests. So if you can put up with cringy 2014 PBG, you might want to enjoy watching those.
I want to talk to his
There
kind.
is no
Whoa!
such thing as a coincidence.
What was that?
The fact that you're watching this video means
I was
you're
about to make a
energetically
joke,
aligned
but then I
with
forgot
me
what it was
and
because it
this
freaking
message.
startled me.
Your
Anyway, moving on to number 3. What did I have back in the day? Ooh, okay, Harvest Moon. Again, I have Harvest Moon again. So this is another one that's matching up. I wasn't expecting this. I think this is the third one that matches up. I'm assuming I put Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town? I assume? Yeah, looks like it. I was struggling to decide which Harvest Moon to put on this video as well. And there's so many that I really like. I love Animal Parade. That was one that I didn't like that much when it first came out. I really enjoy how different it is from the other ones of that time. There's certain gameplay aspects of that, like doing these random quests for people in order to get the bells. It's kind of weird, but I really enjoyed that when I went back and did a video on it way back in the day. But realistically, I think a lot of my joy for that game is just the nostalgia of that time period when I made that Peanut Butter Gamer video. I mean, not that I don't enjoy the game, but in terms of being my favorite Harvest Moon game, it's probably not that one. As much as I love A Wonderful Life, that's probably not it either. So it would either be Back to Nature for the PS1 or the remake of Back to Nature, which is Friends of Mineral Town on the Game Boy Advance. And you know what? Screw it. I think I'm gonna just throw it as Friends of Mineral Town for the Game Boy Advance. That's my favorite. That's what's at number 3. It was also the first Harvest Moon game I played, or at least the first one I played a lot. I played the Harvest Moon Game Boy game that I borrowed from my brother when I was a kid, and I really liked the game. You know, there was something missing, but I enjoyed it. I at least enjoyed it enough to put the next version of the game that I saw on Nintendo Power, Friends of Mineral Town for the Game Boy Advance, on my Christmas list that I gave to my mom. I didn't even put it very high. It was like just somewhere on there. I didn't even really think that much about it. But she ended up getting it for me in my stocking, and it surprised even me. That was the gift that I got that year that I loved the most. And I ended up playing it like all day on Christmas. In particular, when I realized that you could actually get married in the game, like you could get a girlfriend in the game. I remember talking to one of the girls for the first time and they had a little heart. I was like, what the heck? What's that? Like, I thought I was just farming in this game. Like, what are we doing? And that sort of idea of building a relationship and getting married and having kids in a game was just, it like blew my mind at the time. I feel like that's a pretty normal thing these days, but back then I had never seen anything like that. And so mixing in the farming mechanic aspect that I already liked from the original Game Boy version and adding all these social dynamics, an entire town that you could explore and villagers to talk to and befriend, and dating? For once I could actually have a girlfriend, even if it was in my pocket. Screw having one girlfriend. I had like 3. I had multiple playthroughs. Okay? I was getting action. And this game also has a super special place in my heart because frankly, I wouldn't even be sitting here right now if it wasn't for that game. If my mom had not gotten me Friends of Mineral Town for the Game Boy Advance in whatever year that was for Christmas, I would not be married, or at least not to the woman I'm married to right now. I would not have a kid, at least not the one that I have right now, and let's be real, she's the best one. I don't want any of those other alternative timeline ones. I want this one. And I wouldn't live here, that's for sure. I'd probably still be in Texas, I imagine, because I actually met my wife through Harvest Moon. She saw one of my Harvest Moon videos back in the day and emailed me, and we just sort of hit it off from there. It really changed my life, Harvest Moon, so it's hard to imagine like where my life would even be without this game. It's almost insane to say that, but it's true. Anyway, moving on to number 2, Oblivion. So Oblivion, yeah, was my second favorite game, I guess, at the time. And now I have Zelda. Zelda number 2, not number 1. This is a big one for even me to admit. Not only is Zelda not number 1 for me anymore, it's also not Majora's Mask anymore. At least I don't think. My opinion on Zelda games has always shifted over time. But Majora's Mask was always it was always solidly number 1 for me, and everything else under that would shift around. Like Twilight Princess, for example, shifted a lot for me. I used to have Twilight Princess pretty low, but now I have it high. high. I used to have Skyward Sword high, but now I have it low. As recently as last year, I had Wind Waker at my #1 over Majora's Mask for the first time. I was finally willing to admit that it was my #1 after I did the most recent Wind Waker PBG video on it. But even now, as I'm saying this, I'm still not 100% sure it might be Twilight Princess. If I was gonna play a Zelda game right now, it would be Twilight Princess. That would be the one I would want to play the most. But also, I don't know if that's fair because I just recently played Wind Waker, so maybe I don't know. Maybe that's like, that's why I don't want to play it, as I had played it for the video and then I played it all the way through again on a stream on this channel, and it's like, maybe that's why. But then it's also, maybe it's Majora's Mask. So maybe it's back to Majora's Mask. Maybe Majora's Mask is back to #1. You know, I also really like Link's Awakening. That one could be up. I really like the Switch version. That could potentially be #1. I don't know. I can't even decide. As I'm saying this, I just wrote down Zelda and then hoped that I would figure it out. I would just hash it out right now while I'm recording.
Shut out all thoughts. Look deep inside, and you'll find the truth. You will find the #1 best Zelda game that you like, probably. And that Zelda game is... You're right, voice in my head that just recorded that after doing this part. Thank you for your wisdom. Majora's Mask. I'm back on the Majora's Mask train, at least until tomorrow. But yeah, Zelda #2. I've talked about Zelda enough in videos. Let's just move on to #1. What did I have as #1? Big surprise, it was Majora's Mask. And now it is. Oh wait, first, I was gonna do my honorable mentions. Little suspense there. You like that? Like the video if you like that. Subscribe for more videos. Honorable mentions, Animal Crossing. Yeah, I almost forgot I didn't put Animal Crossing on here. That's a tough one. That almost hurts to me to not have it on there. But we did already talk about it earlier because I got confused at one point, so you know, it's practically on here. The Walking Dead Telltale games. Yeah, that's not in my top 10, but those games mean a lot to me. I love replaying those games. I played them both on my own, completely weeped, especially at the end of the first one. Not a lot of games make me cry. It's not super easy to make me cry, but those games definitely did. I played it with my wife at a certain point after that, and that's another one we have figures for on our little space. Dark Souls. I just really like Dark Souls. It's on there. I don't have that much to say about it, but I like it. You know, Elden Ring is good too. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Dark Souls. Take your pick, Elden Ring or Dark Souls. I just put Mario 3D. Yeah, it's actually really weird that I don't have a 3D Mario game on here. But like I said, I've kind of fallen out of love with Mario 64 simply because of Mario Chaos Edition. That is like literally the only reason. Otherwise, it still would probably be in my top 10. But I've been scarred, okay? I also really like Mario Galaxy. And I also have Everywhere Road Trip on here, a game that I talked about in my PBG PS2 video. So if you want to hear me talk more about that, you can watch that video. I think I also talked about it in the games that I replay the most on this channel. There's a lot of things that I like about that game, but I also just really like driving games, and the older I get, the more I like driving in video games. Which brings me to my #1, my summer car. Another huge jump from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask to my summer car. This is pretty much the epitome of the kind of game that I like now. It's slow, it's annoying, it's boring, everything that I love. And it also has driving too. That's also in the game. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's a kind of niche game. My Summer Car takes place, I think, in 1990 in Finland. Basically, you're some guy who lives in his parents' house while they're away on vacation, and you're supposed to take care of the place. And you're supposed to rebuild your car, which for some reason has been completely stripped. And you have to build this car piece by piece, like literally build it. You have to build the engine, you have to put the exterior on, you have to do the wiring, and you have to screw each individual part in. Like, seriously, even if you know what you're doing completely, you don't have to look up any guides. It'd probably take you about 2 hours to build the entire car. And even then, it's not gonna run very well because you need to buy better parts for it and buy upgrades and get better tires and all this stuff. Like, it's actually an insanely tedious and boring process. But something about it is very satisfying, and I really enjoy it. And the main goal in terms of building your car up is to enter the rally race that happens every Saturday and Sunday. But in order to get your car good enough to enter that race, it's gonna take you a long time. Like, you're gonna really need to make a bunch of money, buy a bunch of things, upgrade this thing. Like, you can't just build a car and enter the race. In fact, you have to actually do certain things in order for your car to even qualify. I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, and I've still never even entered the rally. It's that hard to do. But obviously, there's other parts of the game because I haven't even done the main thing you're
supposed to do, and it's still my favorite game. Most of your time spent in the game is just gonna be driving. You start out, you drive a tractor. Eventually you get a van that's pretty fun to drive. You get other vehicles too throughout the game, one of them being a poop truck. It's a septic truck. It's one of the different jobs that you can get to make money. And you need to make money through different various jobs that you can get in the game, because one, you need to buy parts for your car, but you also need to buy groceries so that you can, you know, fill your food bar. You need to buy beer. There's a bunch of different things that you need to spend money on. The driving mechanic is surprisingly enjoyable, but there's also a lot of charm in the game. You can go through various different days in the game without really talking to very many NPCs, but when they do show up, it's always funny. Lots of funny interactions and different little quests that you can do. There's various different quest lines, most of which I haven't completed, partially because they're long and take a long time to do, but also I usually play this on hardcore, similar to Subnautica, so if you die, you have to start all the way over again. But yeah, I talked about this in another video. I think it's called, I've spent 252 hours playing simulator games on my PeanutButterGamer channel. Lots of different links that I'll try to have them all in the bottom of this video if you're interested. Hopefully I remembered. But I really love this game. You can tell the guy who made it just wanted to make this game, and he didn't give a shit about what anybody else thought about it. He just made it exactly the way he wanted it, and he didn't even care if he thought it was fun or not. In fact, on the website that he has, which is like some 90s looking old school website, I love it, it specifically says, "I am making this game because this game needs to be made. This is not made because this is fun game, but because it is not." Yeah, as you can tell, the guy who made this game does not speak English as his first language. One of the different goals I have for my life, especially whenever I wrap up my YouTube career, who knows when that's gonna be, is to make games. I don't even know if I'd be able to make anything good, but I know that if I do make a game, the biggest inspiration for it will be my summer car. Not that it would be exactly like that, just sort of the idea of making some game and just making it kind of like a fuck you game. I was like, fuck you games. It's like, oh, you want the game to be fun? No, it's not. You want to have fun gameplay mechanics? No. You have a piss meter, and that I can guarantee you. If I ever finish a game, it will have a piss meter. You will pee in the game, I promise you that. And if it doesn't have a piss meter, it can't be my #1 favorite game. And with that urine-related comment, I will end this video. Thanks for watching. What games do you like? Do they have piss meters? They should. Bye-bye.